Okay, so it's the end of the day. I've got my Corona. Lovely. And I've got a Heuchera that someone gave me. One of they've divided off a larger plant they had. And all I've done is just cleaned all the dead and tatty leaves away just by pulling them off. Now I've got a pot there, and I'm just going to put some compost in that. I've selected this size pot because I feel it should fill this quite nicely within this year, this growing season. And I might decide that I want to then divide it again if it puts on a lot of growth this year. If not, it will stay in there till end of next year quite happily. I might just have to give it a top dressed feed. Compost I'm using, got two types. I've got some peat free compost here, which is just a multi-purpose peat free, and I've got a compost that is peat based that someone gave me that I'm still getting my way through, which is a lot finer. The problem I'm having with this peat free compost at the moment is it's been through the process a bit fast, and it's still a bit woody and twiggy and lots of pumice stone in there, so not great. So I'm going to mix the two together, sort of equal parts. So it's my two types of multi-purpose, one peat free, one peat based, that has been sieved. In the peat based one, I've added a bit of vermiculite for structure and for water retention, and it's a wet compost, so if I squeeze that, the water should come out of the compost and the vermiculite. Okay, so let's do that. Going to fill the pot to about 2/3, and the hope is now that when I take another pot and firm it down, not too hard, that's gone down a fair bit, and it should be just right. Yes, perfect. So it's just right there for when I make a little hole with my finger there, that it's going to stay together. And all I do is fill in the compost around. And then just very gently firm down, just to get any air pockets out, because I want maximum contact with the roots. Now I've got a little bit of trace amount of bloodfish and bone in this, so I didn't mix any slow release fertiliser in with the main compost mix. But what I will do is, I've got some here, and I'll show you what I would do if I was top dressing it. So say end of this year or beginning of next year, I can scrape off this layer of compost here, and I could either use bloodfish and bone, but to be honest with you, if I've got something out where somewhere the animals can get to it, I prefer to use a synthetic, and particularly for plants like this I prefer synthetic. And I would say probably a cupped handful or close to it is about right. So of this I'm using a Miracle Grow all-purpose here. You can obviously get different mixes for different types of plants, but this is a good general one. And I'm just going to scatter that round. There we go. And then top dress. And that's how I would do it if I was just feeding a sick or tired one. And you could do that now if you've got plants that haven't been fed for a while, been in their pot for a while. You do that for any plant really. There is one which is specific for roses, because the way they take up their nutrients. I would definitely recommend one specifically for roses. And there's a few other exemptions, Herbaceous plants and things like that. But for most herbaceous plants, flowering bed annual plants, most shrubs will happily be treated that way. That's it done. All I'm going to do now is, although the compost's very wet, I'll just give it a little water in. I'm not worried about a bit of excess compost washing away there. And that helps settle it in also. Now what I'm going to do, so it doesn't get too much shock, is because it's going to be a bit inclement in the next, I think it's in a few days, I'm going to just stick it in the greenhouse on a shelf here, but out of direct sunlight. Just let it sort of settle in for a few days. And then when the really windy weather's done, I'm just going to put it out. I'm not going to harden it off. It should be hard enough as it is. And that's it done.